Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Dusty Bradford. Before we put this motor back in my car, I'd like to cover some converter install tips, specifically the pilot to crankshaft engagement. Something that so many people miss. Often guys will not know what kind of measurement they have. So I'm going to show you here on my converter. Here we have a LS pilot. It is extended for a mid plate and for the LS engine with a dished flex plate. Here you have like a standard small block Chevrolet pilot. So they are different sizes. These are threaded, so they are interchangeable. If you have a car with no mid plate, you swap to a 1/2 inch mid plate, you can get these taller. If you go from a flat flex plate to a dish flex plate, you want to change these so you don't have to make any kind of special adjustments anywhere else. These do screw on and off. So let's take this other pilot over to the motor. Like I say, getting ready to get this motor back in my car. I've been down for about a year. We swapped a new CID casting head. Had to do pistons and a few other things, while we were down. But I'd like to show guys this tip here before I get that far. So, flex plates made to flex. This pilot, see how nice and easily that installed? How it will float inside of this crankshaft? That's what you want. You see at the bottom here, it's actually bottomed out against the crank. So when it's installed, you actually want this to be back a little bit. What I like to see is around 200 thousandths. So when my converter is sitting against a flex plate, I want to see about 200 thousandths. So here you have, it's actually about 5/8 there. But it will float easily. This will allow the converter to float inside the crankshaft. So let's talk about what happens when it don't. Let's flip it around here on this converter. So this piece for my PTC converter, this is the part that goes inside the crankshaft. It is a risen up portion. And when you're dealing with any kind of aftermarket parts, you always want to check everything because all it takes is this to be a little bit on the big side, crankshaft to be a little on the small side, and there have an interference. So see here, that is interference. That's as far as that will go inside the crank. It's nowhere close to bottomed out. So if you were to install this in the car, you bolt your transmission to the motor, slide the converter up here, you think everything's great. Well, when this converter goes to thrust forward at wide open throttle, it can't go anywhere. So this is putting forces directly on the thrust bearing. So how do you fix this? Well, what you'll do is you'll take the pilot, take some emery cloth, and just polish this down. Continue to polish it down until it will float inside this crank and it will go all the way to the bottom there. Once it does that, you'll know that it has plenty of room to go. And by marking it with some grease before you assemble it, and you pull it back apart, you'll be able to see where the running position is at. So first things first, I'll make sure this will go inside the crankshaft and turn easily without binding up. So you polish that, get this fit correct, then you can move to putting the transmission and converter on the back of the motor. When you get ready to do that, what I like to do is put some grease on this pilot. I'll bolt the transmission to the motor. I will slide the converter forward. This is where you're doing your 1/8 to 3/16 measurement. You'll slide the converter forward. Let's say it slides out of the pump 3/16 of an inch and it's up against the flex plate. That's perfect. That's where you want it at. Then I'll pull this back apart, take the transmission back down, and I'm going to look for my mark here inside the crankshaft to see how deep that pilot is in my crank. I don't want it bottomed out. So usually what I target is something just inside. As long as it just goes inside here, you know it's okay. It helps to center the converter and it has plenty of room to thrust in and out. So hopefully that'll help you guys putting transmissions, converters in cars. Just another measurement you need to do to make sure everything is good to go.